Hello and welcome to the October edition of Mytech U, where today we're going to be discussing secure mobility and collaboration problems. This session is going to be about how, my name is Nathan Austin, by the way, and we're joined by Philip Holt and Jeff Funk. I'll let them introduce themselves here in a moment. But this session is basically to address a lot of the common problems that we hear from our customers when they have a mobile workforce, even if it's one or two people, branch offices, just trying to send large files or send secure information, where email is not always the best way to do that. And so we're going to dig into those different problems that we hear from our customers, even as they relate to different tools that you might have, FTP or secure FTP, Dropbox, OneDrive, some of the other tools that are out there, and make sure you can kind of see how you can potentially consolidate a lot of those into one, so that way you don't have what I heard a customer say earlier, or actually it was last week, say, just another app that we have to use. So hopefully we can consolidate some of this functionality and give you some great tools to use for your organization. So with that said, Philip, do you want to introduce yourself?
Good morning and welcome. My name is Philip Holt. I work as a sales engineer and product specialist here at Mytech, and I'm mostly going to be sitting in the back of the wings. I'm available to ask questions too, but with that I'll tee it off to Jeffrey Funk.
Hello everybody, my name is Jeff Funk. I work in the Network Operations Center here at Mytech, and I'll be the wizard behind the curtain showing the demo stuff.
Great, yeah, so I'm very thankful to have both Philip and Jeff that way more technical than I am, and Jeff is more proficient at navigating the SyncTool than I am as well, so and doing the demo. So, and Jeff is a former educator, does a great job with these things, so I'm looking forward to it. So, all right, Jeff, let's dig into the next one so we can show kind of the overview of the key details we're going to cover today. So in this presentation, we're going to discuss primarily talking about secure files transfer and collaboration. This is one of the main issues that we experience or hearing from our clients, that they're trying to use third-party tools, or they're trying to use free tools that are out there, trying to send large files, trying to send secure files if you're in a confidential world, a financial or medical or accounting, etc. So we're going to talk about that. The next section we're really going to talk about, okay, well, we can do those things, but now how can we enable the mobile sync, some of the basic functions that you want as an end user if you want to try and leverage a file collaboration and synchronization tool, how we can use that mobily, as well as how it might apply to those organizations who have a small office. I'll give an example of one of our customers that this applied to just recently that saved them a lot of money, so we'll talk about that and use that as an example. And finally, what's also very important about all this is some of the security features. These are security features that you won't get with the free tools that are out there. So that's one of the things that's really important, that as a business, there are things that you want to be able to do that you can't do with some of the free tools. So we'll make sure we hit on the security features as well. And of course, throughout all this, we have you can raise your hand or ask a question at your control panel, and we'll either answer the question online or offline, or we'll connect with you afterwards if we're not able to fully address it during the presentation. So with that said, let's dig into the first section. So, talking about secure file transfer and collaboration, we're going to kind of break this down into two pieces. The first two sections really about team share collaboration. This is really internal collaboration amongst your team. Now that might be people in the same location, it might be people in different locations, it might be someone, the customer we recently discussed this with last week, they talked about how there's really, they have a mobile workforce that are at client sites, but yet they want to be able to collaborate with people back in the office. So it's not that their whole team is remote, but just one of the members is remote. So we'll talk about how you can do that. And then we're going to dig into what we also call file server enablement, where this can actually, you can connect to a file share that's on your server. One of the things that doesn't work very well inherent to Windows is just being able to take network shares with you when you leave the office. So this is one of the ways in which you can effectively do that. So we'll show that as well. And as a kind of a sub-bullet, how this also is enabled to be Active Directory integrated, so your users, your staff, don't have to remember another username and password. It's the same username and password that they're logging into the computers every day. So it hopefully makes it easier. So the first section, we're going to talk really about how it's internal collaboration with your internal team. So Jeff, do you want to take it away to demonstrate those components?
Yeah. So what you had mentioned was the team share collaboration. That's what we're going to start with. So what I have up on my screen in my window here is basically the SyncTool interface, looking at the files that I have created and put so so that I can share them either with other staff members or for me to be synced to my other devices. So if I wanted to say have a share that I wanted to collaborate with team members or people in my department, I can easily come in to the share section. You can see I already have one there. We'll talk about that in a minute. And I can say create a team share. And I can name it. Let's just name it webinar. And once it creates, it gives you the option to select who you want to add to that share so that they can see that. So let's see here. We've got, Nathan, you're in here, aren't you? There you go. I'm going to add you to the share. And Philip's in here as well. I'll add him to the share. Now what will happen is they will be able to see those shares and determine whether or not they want to have that show up on their machine. So like right now, if I were to go to this machine, which is Euclid, or another machine, this share would not be downloaded. But the minute I say, like if you see in here, it's not there. The minute I say on, that share will become available in my folder right over here. So you can decide whether you want it to be on one of your devices or not. That's the biggest, one of the nicest things. After the fact, if I want, go ahead.
Yeah, let's hit on that, Jeff, real quick. We'll talk about the mobile device, how you can connect to your mobile devices and things later as well. But since I appreciate you bringing it up here, because this is one of the challenges that, especially mobile devices, oftentimes don't have as much storage as maybe your laptop does. So this is a way where you can have sync on both devices, but you can maybe restrict the amount of data that's actually syncing to your mobile device because it probably has less storage capability. So,
or your laptop.
Or your laptop too. That's correct too. Yeah.
And then if for example, I wanted to come in and say, oh, well, James is going to be a part of that, so I want to add James back. So you have the ability to add people to the share after the fact, even though they are you've already created it. So you can add members back.
And the other thing, Jeff, just to touch on, so this is the SyncTool, and this is the web interface, as you mentioned, just to let the audience know that this is where, as an administrator of the tool, you can have visibility to this information, and as a user of the tool, you can access to the web interface as well. Although a lot of your interaction on a day-to-day basis will actually be via the app that'll be downloaded to your phone or your desktop. So, but just this is from the administrative console primarily that Jeff is logged in at the moment. So when you see this, this is you know, the kind of setting up some of the ways in which you want to interact with the file tool, the file collaboration.
And the nice thing about this is the way that the app will work on your desktop is it will just present itself as a folder. Like I have that open on the side here, if you can see both. For example, let's just go into the webinar folder and let's upload a file. I'm going to add a file. Let's see, how about this audio file or PDF of my manual that I have. So I'm going to upload it. Once that's uploaded and done, you'll see that it will show up on my desktop. Boom, there it is. So at this point, if Philip or Nathan were on their machine and they had gone into the share, added their share capability to have that there, that document would be available for them as well.
In this way, and this is the primary way in which you can, you know, your network shares say, well, why would I care about doing this? And really, it's your network shares are the most common way people interact with files and collaborate with files when you're on the internal network. But you know, when you have those folks in your organization that might visit clients on a regular basis, or travel, or just that are home office user, these are ways in which you can give them kind of the files, as Jeff noted, that with team collaborations can be easier for them because those files will be synced to their local machine. So you'll be able to have a lot easier team collaboration, especially with those mobile workforce. Or if in some instances, I know those of you who go to conferences, or you know, if you're on a plane and you want to have access to your files, well, you can't always count on the internet connection, especially if you're on a plane, unless you want to pay for it. So this is a way in which someone can still work on those files locally, but once the internet connection comes back onto your laptop or your device, you can actually then sync back up. So that's the idea behind team share collaboration, really internal to your organization.
It's nice because the files, like you had said, you don't have to have a good internet connection. They live on your desktop, and whenever you make changes, it just syncs back up. You also touched on collaborating, not just with a team share you create, but for example, our department, we have a bunch of documents that we use on a regular basis that live here in our office on our server. But some of us aren't always in the office working. Some of us are at home doing programming or in Denver, and they may not have access to some of those files. So what we have done is we've gone in and we've taken a share that is on our server, and we've said that is, we want to link this share, which is called NOC Team Docs, and link that through SyncTool down to my local computer, which you can see it is showing up right here. It's got the little share icon. And basically what's in here are all the files that we store on the server, but they are syncing to my computer. So as long as I have my computer with me, I can make edits and change those documents, and with any internet connection, it'll pop back up and make edits to the file actually on the server. And Nate, you mentioned the Active Directory integration. That's what makes it possible.
So this is the primary way in which, if you have, again, for instance, and this is very oftentimes the case, because we don't necessarily want to create file just a bunch of different places for your files to live. So if they already live in your network drive, you don't necessarily need to create another place for them to live, but this is one of the ways in which you can enable the people that are maybe remote workers or traveling on a frequent basis or work from home, that they can actually have access to the same documents that are on your file shares without having to create another place or wonder where those documents might live. So you can actually connect it to your file shares, and you can sync that to your device, so when you're working remotely it works. So that's one of that's an optional feature. That's not necessary. You don't have to do Active Directory integration. You don't have to connect it to file shares, but it's a very common request that we get as far as, because those are typically the documents that people are trying to collaborate with and take with them. So now we've talked about a lot of the internal collaboration capabilities if you're just on your team, but let's now talk about secure file transfer and collaboration with external resources. So oftentimes encrypted email is a common, there's a lot of things that are meant by encrypted email. So we're not going to be talking about encrypted email, but the reason why I mention it is because oftentimes when people are talking about sending large files, email is the inhibitor. They can't send a file oftentimes larger than 10 megs via email. The other problem with sending those files via email, which is commonly done still, but is that email is inherently insecure. So this is one of the ways in which you can send a file that's larger than what your email system or the recipient's email system can handle, and secure the file and encrypt the file to make sure that someone outside of your organization can get it, receive it, and potentially upload it and collaborate with it. So, and there's ways to do that just on a one-off basis, where you just send a link to a file so they can download it, and you can limit the number of downloads and limit the time that the file is available. And then you can do it in a way where you actually create a guest account for one of your outside, whether it's a customer or a vendor that you're working with, or a consultant that you may be working with. You can create those guest accounts, and so they can have shared access to a folder, not a team share, that's internal collaboration, but an external folder that you can then share, so you could have members of your organization collaborating with an external resource. So Jeff, with that said, you want to take it away and show a demonstration on how that works?
Sure. The nice thing about this is that it works on guest accounts. Usually it's an organizational admin that would be able to create users. But in this case, we're talking about people that you want to be a guest into a share or a file for them to see or download or upload to. They make this very easy in order to do this. Let's say I had a folder. I'm going to go back to my files. Let's work with tools. Let's say I have this tools folder that's right here, and I want to share that tools folder with somebody who isn't a part of our company that needs access to it either for a transitional purpose or something else. And I want them to be able to access all the files in that folder, not just a single file. whether it is a single file or a folder, in the web interface is where we're going to demonstrate this, is to come in, right-click on that, and say Share. What this is going to do is it's going to bring up an interface that will allow you to make a couple options. One of them is a public share URL, which is simply copying and pasting that into an email and sending it to them. But then that isn't the secure share that we were just talking about. The secure share option takes away that public URL option, but then gives you the ability also to say an expiration date. Let's say I don't want this person to have access past Friday. I'm going to use a person. I'll use myself. If I can spell my own name. And it comes in and it makes that person down here, and I'm going to say that person can upload files. Obviously, they'll be able to download, but they can't delete. We don't want them to be able to delete anything, just to add and or download. I can send a message to them, test, share, and hit save. Now I can add as many people as I want to this folder, which in essence becomes a share that's secured for people outside of our network. If I hit save, now that file, that folder is now sitting here. I'm in the web interface, and you can see that that's there. What will happen is momentarily we will see, let's see here. There they are. So an account has been created for me, and this is where I would log in. So if I click, I'm going to basically copy this password. I'm going to open a different browser, and this is the interface that that person outside the network would see. And if they just use their email and password and log in, now they get access to that tools folder. Followed that, just so you see, I got an email saying, hey, this is a shared folder for you. This is when it's going to expire. A link to it again, just like there was, in this case, a link to login. This is a link to the actual share. Going back to that folder, I am, well, yeah, it says it's me, but I'm this person outside the network. I can click on the tools folder itself, and it'll bring me into the folder where it looks similar to what I inside the network have. So you can see between these two, this is me outside the network, this is me inside the network. I can upload files. See here, I'm inside the network. I'm going to come in, I'm going to upload this piece of music. Start upload, and hit back. On this side, this is me outside the network. That file shows up. I'm in a secure access. I can get it from there. I can even upload files if it was on this side. I can add anything else that I have available. Let's do that one. And this is me outside the network saying, oh, this is a tool that I want to add to this. And it'll upload it, and it'll be able to show on the other side. And the whole time, I've got the tools folder that is on my own desktop, that anytime the file gets uploaded, it's showing up there because it's a share that I've shared out from my actual file set, which is this folder right here. There's that there, pops in right there. So it allows for that ability to transfer. If it's a larger file, these files are rather small so that it will go fast so you can see the changes. But if it's a larger file, it's a good way to give access to somebody to a file that's too large to send via email, and because you've done it through a secure account and a guest account, and if I come up to my guest accounts, they're right here, and at any time I could go in and say, remove that guest account, and they will no longer have access to it. If I were to delete my guest account, and I would come back in here, and I would try to refresh that, it's going to give me a 500 error. It says, oh, you don't have access to it anymore. It's gone. Now that file, for all intents and purposes, for me, still lives here. But for that person that I shared with, something went wrong here with a little frowny face.
Yeah, thank you for explaining that part in particular, Jeff. The fact that you can remove people from shares, and that applies to internal to your organization or external to your organization. And you can also, there's an audit trail too that you can see, who has accessed information and who's changed information. We'll talk about that in the security feature section. Well, Jeff's pulling it up here. He's quicker than I am. But that's the idea. No, that's okay. That's great. I didn't want to put the pressure on you to show it at that moment, but I appreciate you doing so. But it's an important piece that this is one of the features that you don't usually get from free tools. The only options you usually have sometimes is deleting information to stop the syncing. So sometimes it's more difficult to do that if you're trying to keep it internally. So the other thing I wanted to, Jeff, if you pretend like you're going to share, go into the tools folder again, and if you're just going to share one of those files. So for instance, the audio one, the top one, if you notice the size on that one, that's 25 megs. That's larger than the typical email will be able to send. So this is an example of how you could upload a file, which Jeff did, and then you can right-click on it, and you can actually, then you can share. Now, one of the things I do want to show, when you see the public share, for example, you can still create some of these download limits, but notice how it's got the HTTPS in the URL. So you'll actually see that even if it's a public share, it is still providing an encrypted session for your guest to be able to download the file. So it's still providing a secured connection. It's just if you're doing a public share, that doesn't require the guest to log in. That's the only difference. It's still secured. It's still encrypted when you're downloading it. But the only difference between a secure share and a public share is it doesn't require you to log in. I think I captured that correctly, Jeff. Is that right?
Yep, you did. Yep.
So I think that's mainly it for being able to send large files, being able to send secured files, basically one and the same, but oftentimes a different purpose because you might not necessarily be worrying about securing the files if they're not confidential, but they're secured anyway. And that's really being able to do that with external folks to your organization, and then how you can share with a guest account, and those guest accounts, you can have unlimited guest accounts through this service that doesn't cost you any extra. So being able to collaborate with external vendors, whether it be a partner, customer, or vendor, etc., you can create those and do that collaboration as Jeff demonstrated as well. Now, the other thing to demonstrate, which Jeff showed how when you created that tool folder and you shared it with the guest account and that file synchronized back to Jeff's machine, well, that's because Jeff is a full-fledged user with the SyncTool. As a guest account, you only get web access. That's one of the things that's a differentiator. The guest account does not have permission to download the mobile app to put it on a laptop or a desktop or a mobile device to synchronize the files. They only have access via the web interface. So any other thoughts on that, Jeff?
No.
Okay. So hopefully that shows how you can do some secure file transfer and collaboration with this tool. Let's move on to the next section so we can talk about those components. Now let's talk about mobile devices and remote staff sync. Now we've already talked about this a little bit, but we really want to dig in and show some of the capabilities and feature sets. One, it's compatible across iOS, Android, and Windows. So Jeff will be able to show where, as a full-fledged user, you can download and it can be a cross-platform device. In fact, I believe, Jeff, you're doing this presentation off of a Mac, right?
Yeah.
So it's fully capable to integrate with Mac as well. And on the laptop, then you can do Windows and as Jeff illustrated, on a Mac. So some of the key components here is that you can see what devices, as Jeff showed earlier, you can either choose to synchronize to these devices or not. But Jeff will show you what the mobile interface looks like. We have a mobile emulator that Jeff will show, and you can see how it syncs to the laptop as well. So this will actually be probably a little shorter portion of the demo, but definitely want to show you how the interaction works with the laptop application as well as the mobile application. And Jeff, if you could start by showing them where they could download so you can see kind of where in the app when you're logged in, where do you download the application?
When you're in the web interface, usually you come up to the dashboard or into your files. Up along the top, you will see where it says Download Mytech SyncTool app. If you click on that, it will give you the option to whether you want to do it for the Android, iOS, or any of these. In the App Store for Android and for iOS, you can also find the SyncTool app that you don't just have to download it from here and put it in through iTunes. You can actually get it from the Apple Store or the Android Store or the Windows Store.
And just search by SyncTool.
Yep.
And it's past tense, as you notice on the mobile app that Jeff has over on the left-hand side of the screen. It's synced, SYNCED tool, and you find that. You can search for that, and it's a free download.
Yep. And I could show you that search, but we don't have to. We can just go right in and take a look at the app itself. You can download the app and put it in as many devices as you want. Whatever you see on your laptop or your machine, for example, which is these files that I have showing right here. Whatever I see here, I'm going to also see on my interface on my phone. I can choose whether I want to update, pull down, it'll load. You can see that we have our two shares that we had created. One is the webinar test share I created. The other is the NOC team document share that we had. I can basically go in and open any of the folders and get those files. The files don't actually download to your phone until you actually click on them, and then they will download to the phone. So you're not using up storage as you're doing this. You can make items that are your favorites. So if I go, I think it'll just download it, and from in here, I think you can say that, yep, there's the star at the bottom. I can say that's my favorite, and then it shows up in my favorites for me to view. If I go to upload, I can actually pull files from, if I go like this, I can pull them from the different locations that I have available. iCloud Drive, I can put a photo in. If I click more, I can turn on other places. So like I have OneDrive, Google Drive, Dropbox. If I turn them on, I'll be able to navigate into them and upload the file from here into, it'll just give me another interface and say, in your Dropbox folder, what file do you want to, oh, there's my password. What file do you want to grab? And I hit done, and it'll upload that file through to the SyncTool interface. So on your phone, if you have other cloud storage utilities, it'll allow you to bring that in. I'll go back to the files there to start from there. And
or even your photos. One of the things that is common that our engineers do is they go on site and they'll take site photos to make sure that we capture them. We'll often do that with our phones, so we can actually just do it right from your photos, and you can upload photos, into the SyncTool as well. That'd be one of the ways in which you could
yep.
a practical way that can be done too.
Right from your camera. So you can do it from the camera itself, and it'll go up, or from something that's a photo that's already taken. So that's good. Yeah.
So Jeff, could you show the file browsing on the local machine just to kind of show how integrated it is? One, just even opening up the local the SyncTool folder, as well as showing how it's part of the regular browsing experience as a user standpoint.
Sure. I'll bring over one of my browsers. You can see that in this case it's on a Mac, and I can also show this in a Windows environment. Here it is in a Windows environment where I have, in this case, it's dropped in an icon called SyncTool, and it lives on the computer. It makes a shortcut. There it is. When I click on it, it just brings up the documents like any file search tool that you would have. I can click on any of the folders. It acts the same way. That's on the Windows side. Same with on the Mac side, or even if it's not Mac or it's something else. In this case, it's the MTT SyncTool folder, and I click on it, and there are the files. Simple, easy access, like everybody's used to navigating through a file system.
Very good. All right. Any other components you want to show there, Jeff? Maybe show how you can see when you're looking at these. This will be a nice segue to the next section. When you can see the yes, in the portal, you can see what devices are actually connected or accessing different information.
Okay. That's actually an organizational admin.
Okay.
that
yeah,
you
thank
get.
you.
And from there, you can go into the machines. For example, the top one that we see right here is Euclid, which is my Mac that we're looking at and doing everything through. It will list where, if it's got backups, what the team shares are, the files. We're not doing an upload queue count or anything, but I can get logs of what was uploaded and what was downloaded. And if I click unlink, it basically will wipe the files from that device. If I go into my user itself, I think from here, you have to be an admin in order to see that. So let's just come over back to this side and take a look. If I open up my user and my account, you'll be able to see all of the devices that I am synced to. How do I spell my name again? That's an F, F-U-N-K. Okay, there I am. If I click on it, you can see here are all the devices. I have a couple laptops. I have a phone. I have 2 iPads and a phone. All of them are linked in through to this folder that I can share files with. You can see my activity of what I've done, root folders and such. Same here. That's what the admin can do and see what's going on.
Perfect. That's great. So let's go back to the presentation, and we'll kind of hit on some of the security features, and this will be a good segue back into this world.
I went through a little too far on that one. There you go.
All right. And there we go. Thank you, Jeff. So as Jeff noted, this is one of the things that you don't have available in most of the free tools, and is definitely a risk. Where if you've heard of a device being stolen, you're worried about the information residing on that device, whether it be a phone or a laptop, or just if you lose it. I think I should have looked up the statistic, but there's a statistic of thousands of laptops get left at airports every year. And if that happens, this is one of the ways in which you can remotely wipe those devices. So the next time they turn on and connect, they basically remote. They connect to the internet. It'll wipe any of the data that's connected. The other thing that's important to note is the encryption. We touched on this a little earlier in the presentation, but it's important to note that this is encrypted data. It's encrypted when it's stored in the cloud. It's encrypted upon transfer, and it is 448 blowfish encryption, which is one of the highest military-grade encryptions you can get in the market today. And that's an important part of any type of tool when you're transferring data back and forth between mobile devices and or external resources. Finally, the fact that you can manage revisions as a user. There's some security features about being able to back up, manage the revision. So if somebody accidentally changes something, you can roll back. So these are some of the kind of backup security features, as well as removing users from those components, as Jeff showed as well. So let's show some of these key components. These are critical to being able to make sure that it's a business class, business grade solution that oftentimes our customers, very often these are the requests that they're asking about, making sure that these components are there.
Well, I want to touch first on, you mentioned about revisions. So let's go and take a look at the NOC documents folder, and we're going to look at a file that I use on a daily basis. That's not that one, it's this one. Let's see here. If I right-click, I've got this one highlighted. If I come up to the role, if I right-click on it and I say revisions, it's going to bring me to, oh, not that one then, is it? Let's see here. My apologies. Where are you? There you are. I go revisions. It's going to list every revision that I've made to this document, and I can go back and download or restore that revision. So if somebody has gone in and changed a file that maybe you didn't want changed, you can always grab that back. That's one of the things you mentioned, right, Nate? Let's see here. Besides the aspect of managing revisions, they do have the ability to, as we mentioned, wipe a device. So because I am going to, it doesn't matter whether or not I keep these files. We can actually, if we want to, wipe them completely as a test. If I can get that folder up. If I come down and I want to say unlink those files.
And what device was that? Was that your, oh, that was your mobile phone?
That was my mobile phone. Now if I come back in, what do you know, this, the worst thing would happen right now is if it didn't work.
You have to close the app and
yep.
you redo it. Or if you refreshed. Yeah.
I've unlinked. It's going to try to go in. Oh.
I think what it does, it'll disconnect it, but then when you once you reconnect it, it'll reconnect it. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So you'll have to go through. There's actually a different place where you actually remotely wipe.
Of course, I cannot recall where that was. Let's see here. Let's actually go to.
Got to go over to your mobile devices.
Machines. Mobile devices.
There you go. Yep.
And we've got JFunk. This is Kepler. Unlink. Just the unlink one that you got. The biggest feature that is nice is, as you had indicated, of deleting something altogether. Tech. Unlink. This is where I take a machine itself and I say, I want to unlink this machine from my account or from this person's account. You can choose whether you want to remove or keep those files for that user. If you say keep, then all the files that they have stored locally will stay. If you say remove, it'll basically remove all of those files from that person's local machine, regardless of whether it's they have them on that machine or wherever they are on that machine. It'll basically disconnect them and remove them from the copies from that machine. I'm not going to do that because that'll unlink one of my machines, and I don't want to do that.
All right, so we talked about the ability to unlink and remove. We talked about, yeah, I don't know if there's a way to show the encryption. And we talked about managing revisions. But I think those are the main feature sets. There's definitely different capabilities you have as an organization admin, and we didn't talk about creating users and things like that. But because that really, I wasn't trying to go to that level, but trying to hit on the most common features that our customers are asking, and in particular, kind of as a summary, this is really about, we have customers that, over the years, and mobile technology is advancing, applications like this are advancing. Over the years, people would have FTP sites to do this. They would have additional web space available to be able to share large files. You might be using a free SyncTool or using OneDrive. That's actually something where we've experienced, customers that when they've been trying to sync that with SharePoint, they really have not enjoyed that experience for whatever reason. And so, or they're using a free version of a box or a Dropbox, and they're just not able to manage and secure things. So they're either paying for or using several different applications, maybe have guest portals where they're having external vendors interact with them and share files. But this is a way where you can actually consolidate a lot of that into a single tool and a single application. Now, most of our customers, this doesn't apply to everyone in their organization, but usually there's a subset of 5 or 10 or 5 or 10 people or 5 or 10% of or maybe as many as 20% of the organization that could benefit from these different feature sets. And that way you also have a central console from which it can be managed that we can also help you with. That was one of the other challenges that we've had across our customer bases. People, Dropbox or OneDrive, they are being used on your networks today, and you have no visibility to what's going on. So this is one of the ways, and if we get calls for support, we support them as best we can, but we're limited in our ability to do so because we don't have a centralized console from which, and you don't have a centralized console from which you can actually manage all the different components and features. So with that said, I don't know, Philip, you've been observing. I appreciate that. Jeff or Philip, do you have any final thoughts on this section, on the presentation today?
I think Jeff did a great job, so I have nothing to add.
Philip. Jeff, anything?
Not really. We didn't touch on backups, but it's a side feature that kind of comes in. But that's something that we can always talk about if anybody ever calls and asks questions. We can touch on that as well.
That's right. It actually can be used as a device backup capability where you can sync data to the SyncTool, but not necessarily share the data that's being backed up. So that's another feature, especially for those mobile users that might want to back up their machine to the cloud and have a backup available to them. So that's actually a great point. Forgot to mention that. Sorry about that. But thank you all, everyone, for participating and joining today. And if you have any questions, by all means, please reach out, and we're happy to help. And this is recorded, and so we'll be on our website within the next 24 hours for reference. We wanted it also to be a tutorial for those of you who are using it or thinking about using it. These are ways where you can remind yourself on how to do some of these things. Of course, you can also call us as well. So thank you all very much. Thanks, Philip. Thank you, Jeff. Did a great job on demonstrating the Windows interface, the Mac interface, as well as the mobile device interface. I appreciate you putting that all together for today. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.